Shadow will cover this world. I cannot do that. A dead god for a dead world. Pathetic.
Hey guys, it's Volka. So this build is the Abyssal Echoes Void Knight build, and how this build works, we're just casting Abyssal Echoes for damage. So this node was buffed in this season, so you deal actually good damage with the skill now. And you need quite a bit of items to actually make this work. So basically Abyssal Echoes has a high mana cost, so this is 25 mana cost plus the no cooldown node here, plus 15, so 40, and then you get a bunch of mana efficiency. But even with this, it's not quite enough yet. So we need Void Well first thing. So you have this on something like Erasing Strike or Path. You're also using on that. So basically, you get your mana back with the Void Essences. So as a 4-second cooldown, Void Knight passive, very important for the build. So that's important, and then you need a bunch of items. So we need this staff with the minus void spell mana cost. Also, it's a good staff otherwise as well, so a lot of damage with this staff here. Then you need idols, so you need 2 of these idols with void spell mana efficiency. You don't need a third one, but if you have like minimum roll or something, you can go for a third one, because now you can easily get more than 2 with the pyramid altar. But you don't need any of the prefix effect necessarily here. You just need like 2 idols. And you also need Reliquary Nest, so this boosts the effect of idols. And if you have really good gear, you have a good prefix effect here, you have max rolled Nest, for example, you can most likely at that point you can replace one of these void spell mana efficiencies with like Vitality, for example, for even more damage. But that's like the base idea of the build. Otherwise, we are going for pretty much max movement speed on this, so this is like a very like high clear speed build. It has like a kind of like a walking simulator playstyle also, so you're dealing damage while moving with the Devouring Orb, kind of like an auto bomber playstyle, and then you also deal damage with Abyssal Echoes, and this keeps on like bursting. So one cast is more than just one Abyssal Echoes; it's like a bunch of casts with one cast. So basically, it deals damage while moving, and very like fast build. And so the skills on this build, Abyssal Echoes, main damage, get the cooldown node here, so you can spam it, get all the mana efficiency, take this node so you can actually hit with the skill, otherwise you deal no damage. And then these improve your damage a lot, so basically this is the bursting node, so you get like multiple casts per Abyssal Echo cast. And you also don't need to build any armor shred on gear on this build, which is amazing. So you get many stacks of shred with just these nodes here. There's not that many multipliers on the tree though, so this is pretty much the only thing apart from these two. So basically these 2 nodes give you a damage multiplier, and the rest of the points you can go area, so for even better clear speed. Anomaly, as always, just speccing it for buffs, so more void damage taken, attacks, cast speed, crit chance, so you can cap your crit with this, and we have cooldown also on the build, so just keep this up, keep up the time bubble, you will have your max crit chance all the time. And we also don't need void shred on the build, because you get it from here, so you get almost max stacks on bosses with this, so don't need to go for the blessing, you can instead go for crit chance blessing. Symbols, very usual, going for 4 symbols with this node, void conversion, and then mana regen helps with the mana sustain. Devouring Orb, so this gives you buffs and also deals damage. So basically, Void Essences very important for Void Well, and this is more damage, so you get more than 90 vitality on this build, so it's going to be 20% more damage. We're speccing all the damage nodes here, so we actually want to deal damage with the orb as well. So this is a lot of damage for the orb. Get the range, so it's like better for clear speed basically, and that's pretty much it. So we don't go for the Void Tread on this setup because we actually want to spec it for DPS. And then just Shield Rush for movement. You don't need to spec the rest of the points. This is the only thing that matters. So we're not using a shield, so you need to spec it. And so for the passives, maxing out all the vitality that you can possibly get. You can also get this node, by the way, instead of like strength, if you don't need res and if you want to get more shield rush in. But we already have a bit of cooldown on the build, so it's not really needed, and the strength is nice. Paladin, 15 points for symbols, also going 1 point here on blind. So for bosses, you basically have perma blind, because we're not quite hitting the reduced bonus crit cap. So you get 60 here, and then you get the suffix here. So it's almost cap with this, but just in case, 1 point, not too bad. So you can spec that here. And on rest in the Void Knight, so resistances, if you don't need this much, you can, for example, take 1 extra point into Leech. This Leech is quite enough, so getting the 1% here on the gloves and then 0.5 and a little bit here. So this is enough Leech, especially in the end game, but you can always, spec more if you feel like you need. And 8 points here, very important for the echo chance, so Abyssal Echo's echo chance. And then pretty usual Void Knight stuff, get the Void Well passive for the mana sustain, max out the vitality. So we're going 5 points here for mainly for the just mana regen. The echo mana gain is not really that amazing because it has a long cooldown, but just a bit of mana, so Void Well works better basically. Get the echo chance, the crit, the DR, vitality. And for items, so like I explained, the staff, idols, and reliquary nest are like very important items. You need them before you play the build. Apart from those, Titan Heart, damage reduction with the staff, so it makes you tanky. You can also go like 1 LP on these, of course. You don't need Abyssal Echoes here, it's just, it's just AoE, but it's nice to have, gives you increased damage. Also the affix. So the helmet ring setup here is basically, we disable the evade pretty much, so you don't want to evade with because this casts Glacier, so it costs a lot of mana. So don't evade, and then you're gonna spawn this crap with the ring. So basically, idea is to just max out the movement speed, and you're gonna be like running really fast instead of evading. And this makes it so you don't have to use something like Leonine Helmet. Also, this has really good stats like strength and all that, so easy to get. So I like using this combo on this build. But if you don't like Crab Ring, if you want to evade, get Leonine Great Helm here and use like Flames of Midnight, for example, as your ring. But this is a lot of value. The ring also gives you a bunch of vitality and everything. So, and then other ring is Quicksilver Coil for haste. So all the attack speed and stuff doesn't matter. We want the haste here because getting haste on this build is otherwise quite hard. So you can get the corruption for haste traversal, so after shield rushing you get haste, and it also gives you haste effect. So even on aspirational I still do go for coil, so you get it on hit as well, and I mean you might not get the corruption anyways. So this makes the build like really fast. So endgame planner is like 160% movement speed with all the buffs up, so very fast. Then blood damage gloves, like on many spell builds, crit chance, tankiness from the unique effect. Build cast speed on this one, but we're not building cast speed on the relic or on the staff. So basically, overbuilding cast speed is very bad because you can't sustain the mana cost anyways. So we get a bit here, and we also get like cast speed for void spells on the staff. We get cast speed from anomaly and stuff like that. So that's most likely gonna be what you go for, unless you have a lot of gear. So you have the good altar, you have stuff like that. So you have a high effect on these. Then on like aspirational you can go instead T7 cast speed, but crit multi it basically works for works always, and it's always good damage with the crit multiplier. And Nihilist, I mean +2 skills, mana regen, amazing for the build, increased mana, all that stuff. We're not evading, so that doesn't matter, and we actually don't really care that much about the frenzy anyways, because like I said, cast speed is not that useful. And to cap crit on the build, basically a crit blessing and the ring, D7 crit chance here, and the rest pretty much comes from your like abilities and passives. You also get spell crit here on the amulet. You get 150 crit chance from time bubble, and you also get a bunch of base crit here. So with this setup, you get 100% crit chance quite easily. So guaranteed slams bring you to 100% crit.